Warning. This video contains loud noises, flashing lights, and most importantly, your mother. Hours with the Man is a series of scratch FNAF fan games created by Bob, who you may know from her more popular works such as Incredibob Deadline, Teletubbies, A Different Fate, and many more. The series currently has about 14 installments so far, with the 15th one currently in the works. This part only covers what I call the pre-save era of Hours with the Man, which is just gonna be a summary of the game's events interspersed with my thoughts here and there. The second part is gonna cover the post-save era, which is gonna be more theory-focused, and will have a lot of moments where I just ramble on about stuff. And before anyone says anything, this is not a video essay, this is a plot summary, so if you were expecting a carefully crafted, well-written video, you're out of luck, buddy. We eat gruel in this household. Take your ass back to like Oscar McGuire or something. This entire series was an absolute treat to play, and I highly encourage you to try the games out yourself before watching this. But before we begin, I would like to thank today's sponsor, me. I upload no commentary recordings of random games I find on itch.io and GameJolt, with a slight focus on RPG Maker games and 2D FNAF fan games, so if you're interested in weird, niche games and stuff, be sure to check in every once in a while, you might find something you like. I also make games on my GameJolt page, so that's pretty cool I guess. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the recap.
Haha, the man is Slash. My name is Shock.
The series gets really good at the end, trust me. Upon pressing play, you're greeted with the newspaper talking about an evil man doing an evil ritual, and you, for some reason, decided to stop him. This ritual thing never gets brought up ever again in any of the games, by the way. Technically it does, but like that one's not canon, or maybe it is. It gets confusing. There's only two characters in this one. There's Broke Man, he's a broken down robotic version of Man. He's not really important, so you can just forget about him. And there's Man, he's the guy that basically kickstarted this whole shebang. The gameplay here is very simple. You have a flash button and a shot button. If Man shows up, flash him, and if Broke Man shows up, shot him. There's also a secret golden man jump scare you can get by pressing one of the buttons, waiting about 3 to 4-ish seconds and pressing the same button twice.
Flash!
Scary! After surviving for 1.5 minutes you get a win screen. Congrats! There's not much else to say about this one, on to the next game. After the events of Hours with the Man, Guy, who's Man's cousin by the way, slaps you and kidnaps you.
You beat up my cousin, I'm going to beat you up now.
And now, you have to survive a night with Guy. Wow! The story gets way more interesting after this one, I swear. For the characters, there's Guy, he's Man's cousin, and he dies in the 5th game. That's like, all he does in the entire series. He's also Man's cousin. There's craziness. We don't really care about this guy. And lastly there's the toy. This guy's pretty important. He'll show up in the next couple of games. The gameplay of this one is pretty much the same as the first one, but the buttons are togglables now. Instead of a flash and shock button, you have a mask and lights button. You can't turn off the lights while wearing the mask, and vice versa. If Guy shows up, wear the mask. If craziness shows up, turn off the lights, and toys just fold and ready. There's a really evil thing that can happen where Guy and craziness overlap each other, but as long as you're good at flicking, I think you should be fine. Survive for 3 minutes and you get an image of you beating up Guy. Hooray! This next game, however, is where things start getting interesting. The game begins with our protagonist, whose name is revealed to be David, being greeted by a void entity called the Overwrited, who I'm just gonna call Overwrite since that's what Bob calls him in the later games. He reveals that David is trapped in the void, which is a place with infinite rooms where man puts his unused stuff in, and how Overwrite was sent here because he was replaced with Broke Man. Now this void place is gonna very important to the lore, so don't forget about it. He then says that David is able to leave this place since he is tagged to a guest, whatever that means, and he could help him and his void buddies escape. David rejects Overwrite's offer, calling him the type of guy that betrays people, which is honestly kind of a blunder on David's part here. I don't think any of the following games would have ever happened if David just chose to help Overwrite in this part. This understandably makes Overwrite mad and chases after David, who then bolts to a room which has a button that sprays evil gas that teleports void entities. For the characters, Overwrite's pretty important, you're gonna see him in the next few games. Same with Insides, who's actually the toy from the second game. How he got here is something that'll be explained later on. Void and Corrupted aren't really relevant here, they're just kinda enemy fodder. Enemy slop, as the kids call it nowadays. I will say though, Void's portrait is absolutely nutty here, he is hitting the shit goddamn. And lastly there's Dave, who isn't even from ours with the man originally, he just kinda cameos in a couple games and that's about the extent of his character. The gameplay, like all the others so far, is pretty simple. On your office, there's a gas button, and on your right, there's a camera panel with instructions telling you how to survive, and a tracker that shows where the entities are, and a glitch button. All of the characters go from room 5 to room 1. If Overwrite shows up, press the gas button. If Void shows up, press the glitch button. Corrupted and Insides are basically the same thing as Overwrite and Void, but you can't see them in the office. And Dave's a bit of an odd one. If the tracker shows that he's in room 1, you need to glitch, but if he shows up after a cam flip, you need to fart. An important thing to note is that the office theme in this game is the first instance we hear of the Void light motif, which is a motif you're gonna be hearing a lot in the series. After surviving for 5 minutes, man shows up and opens a portal back to the overworld. David goes in, with Overwrite and Insides following after him. There's also an extras menu which becomes a staple in the coming games, but there's nothing really lore important in this one, so I'm just gonna skip over it. After going through the portal, David arrives in an unfamiliar building with a pissed-off looking person next to him. The man tells him to get the fuck out of his house, but after a single plead, the guy gives in and lets him stay, but under the condition that he has to work the night shift with the dude. Oh yeah, his name is Dude, by the way. A couple days later we cut to Overwrite and Insides, who've been trying to find Dude and David for the past few days, which, at the point, why are you even trying anymore? You've already escaped the Void Man. Like, go get a job or something. Why are they trying to find Dude anyways? What did he do to deserve this? They find out that David is hiding in Dude's place and they decide to go kick his ass or something, which brings us to the gameplay. The gameplay loop for this one differs heavily compared to its predecessors. It takes place inside Dude's labyrinthian warehouse thing and you have to navigate at least 30 rooms forward before the timer runs out. You can use the WASD keys to look through the doors, look behind you or move forward. And you can press space to activate a flash beacon. Every room except for the first spawns a random threat you must deal with before moving forward. If you run out of time, you die. No jump scare or anything, you just die. Overwrite and Insides, who are now called Attempt and Restless respectively, can both be dealt with using the flash beacon. Attempt can only spawn in the corridors while Restless can only spawn behind you. Proto-Man, Box, and Circlipede are all doohickeys the Dude made for seemingly no reason. There's just no explanation on why Dude made these guys. Proto-Man can only show up behind you, you just need to look at him for about 2 seconds and he'll leave. Box shows up in the middle of the room, and you can just type Box to ward him off. And lastly, there's Circlipede who shows up in the corridors. All you need to do is click on him to make him leave. A funny thing about all the enemies is that none of them have any kill timers at all, so they just kinda stand there and wait for you to deal with them. The atmosphere of this game was honestly scary as hell to me for like the first 12 seconds. The ambience and art style really reminds me of those old spooky flash games I used to watch my cousins play as a kid. After getting to room 30, you get a bit of dialogue with the Temp and Restless. The two exchange some banter, and the Temp gets a devious idea involving Dude, bringing us to the second shift. David clocks in for his second shift, and finds Dude dead on the fucking ground. He tries to run away, but is stopped by an unknown entity, who tells him how Temp and Restless may have forced Dude to do something to them, and that he should fucking run. The gameplay loop for the shift hasn't really changed all that much. You still need to traverse 30 rooms, but now you only have 2 threats to face off and you have an extra 30 seconds to spare. Temp and Restless got fused into men. He can show up in the corridors or behind you, and you need to flash him to fend him off. Protomon, Box, and Circlipede were combined into creation. If he's in the corridors, you need to click him. If he's behind you, you just need to wait about 3 seconds for him to leave. After reaching room 30, David finally escapes the building and finds a conveniently placed gas canister on the side of the wall, which he uses to burn the place down, FNAF 3 style. I used to absolutely hate the gameplay of this one, but replaying it again, I think it's pretty okay honestly. The mechanics are simple enough to not be overwhelming, and the timer adds a pretty neat way of building tension. I mostly hated this game because I had some of the absolute worst luck in my first playthrough. I had, 4 creation backshots back to back and died to the timer, and I got really pissed off at that. The extras menu has a couple cool things on it. It gives out some neat info on Restless's backstory. Apparently he was created by Guy and he made craziness crazy, and Guy didn't really like that, so he trapped him in a toy for 72 years until he finally gets out, only to be sent into the void immediately after. This guy is a 72-plus-year-old man, by the way. And Dude's bio reveals that he, Guy, and man were created from a fragment of reality, whatever that means, and apparently he had a falling out with the other fellas, which is sadly never explained. It also shows all the characters' classes, with the Temp and Restless as void entities, Protomon, Box, and Circlipede as the creations, Men and Creation as the end game, and Dude being the sole reality bender in the game. A minor nitpick I have is that if Overwrited and Insides went into the same portal that David went in, then shouldn't they end up in the same building that David was in? Also, what's with the broken heart thing on the title 4? I have no idea what that's about. And I think that's all I have to say about this entry. Let's move on to the next game. The main menu theme in the game files is called Close to an End, which I find really funny. It's also the first instance we hear of what I like to call the man leitmotif, which I believe represents man and the other reality benders as a whole. It's also a banger of a song, but I'm sure you already know that. This is a Bob game we're talking about here. After burning down Dude's house, David looks for a place to live. He quickly finds one and knocks on the door, only to see a very friendly face welcoming him. David tells him about his current living situation, and the chef lets him stay for exactly 2 nights. I like how David just glosses over the fact that Chef's house is probably extremely dangerous, considering he gives him the tools he needs to survive a night there. That, or tussling with void demons, is just part of everyday life for an hours with the man civilian. Why can't David just go to a hotel or an inn or something? Is he actually just broke and homeless? I really like how each character has their own personalized dialogue box that adds such a nice touch to the game, even though they only appear in 2 scenes. After that, we cut to a view of Dude's house burning down, and as it turns out, Man, who's now called Redacted, didn't actually die to the house fire. Huge shocker. The gameplay for this one is pretty different. The night is split into 3 phases, with each phase having differing playstyles, which is a nice break from having to do the same thing for 5 minutes. Phase 1 takes place in your bedroom, and as you face off against the Keeper and the Reaper. The other game just doesn't give you a single bit of context on who these guys are or why they're here until the end of the night. This phase is a sort of combination between a night with Guy and hours with the man. You got a flashing thingy and a mask. If the keeper appears, you need to put on the mask. If the reaper appears, you need to flash his ass. Survive for 3 minutes and you're good to go. My strategy here is to just put the mask on for the entire time and only take it off when you have to flash the reaper, as the keeper leaves immediately after you put the mask on. Phase 2 has you in the living room waiting for chef to finish his cooking. Every once in a while a clown shows up and you have to press the number it shows on your keyboard about 3 times to make him leave. There's an eye icon on the top left that shows if chef is glancing at you or not. The eye slowly opens and if he sees you standing next to the Twitter user, he kills you. That's not me making a shitty joke there, the chef actually calls him that sometimes. My strategy for this one was to just put all my fingers on the number keys and just start pressing all of them the instant the clown appears. It usually works, sometimes not really. Survive for 2 minutes and you move on to the next phase. Phase 3 has you back in the bedroom, fighting off the redacted, but now you have a new shot button at your disposal. If you see him in the room, you need to flash him. If you hear a growling noise, you need to put on the mask. If he shows up right in front of you, you need to type leave on the keyboard. If he growls and is in the room, you need to shock him. You have to remember all of this to survive, by the way. And after 3 minutes, Redacted gives up and David finally gets a good night's sleep. After that whole debacle, we cut back to the Keeper and the Reaper and holy moly they were actually man and Guy all along, what the hell? And it turns out they were only stalking David because they wanted to find out why he killed Dude, which he didn't, but I'm sure you know that, right? Guy gets worried that David might leave before they figure out what happened, but man gets a very devious idea, which leads us to the second dinner. It begins with David walking down the stairs and stumbling upon quite a gruesome scene. Why did man do this? What was he cooking up? Man says that he was just about to activate it and tells David to scurry off while he still can. He also tells him that he brought back a friend, but David's already gone into his room. There's only one phase throughout this night, and only one threat you have to face off, that being the repeater. Why is he called that? I have no idea. The mechanics are basically the same as phase 3, but now there's the eye icon from phase 2 on the left. If you hear a growling noise, you need to shock him. If you hear laughing, you need to flash him. If the eye is red, you need to put on the mask, and if he shows up in front of you, you need to type repeat. And after 5 minutes of the most intense game of Bop It you've ever played, you get another cutscene. David rushes into the kitchen and grabs a knife, and he sees Guy in front of him. Guy asks David why he killed Dude, but before he could even say that, David fucking shanks his ass. Twice. He tries to do it a third time, but man gets in the way and tanks the hit. Man gets reasonably pissed off at this and sends Dude's rotting desiccated corpse to attack David, sending you into a minigame. In this part, you have to press the dodge and knife circles whilst avoiding the dumb click circles and dodging the lasers he shoots at you. You can tell Bop was really proud of this one, because she recycles it in the next 2 games, and that's great. We love helping the environment here. After stabbing him about 6 times, we get the ending cutscene. While I do like the multiple phases this game has, it gives way to a problem I have with it, which is that there are a lot of mechanics that the game expects you to remember, and this is just my opinion, but I don't think having to pull out pen and paper just to remember the mechanics of a FNAF fangame seems like good game design IMO. I feel like if the instructions just appeared while you were playing the game and only showed up once you went into a different phase, it would be easier to remember and a lot less overwhelming. It just dawned on me while I was writing this part that this is actually what Bop does in her more recent games, so that's pretty neat. Also, Tiki shows up in the credits for this game, which is fucking insane. I was actually pogging out of my gourd when I saw that name pop up. So a Discord server I frequent in, Floral Federation, was where Tiki actually originated in, and I guess someone reposted it somewhere in the internet, and then somehow Lessons in Meme Culture made a video about it, and I shit you not, the memes channel in there went wild, like you really had to be there for it. It was crazy. Seeing his name appear in this game made me feel like a sleeper Aiden awakening after 4 years. I genuinely didn't believe my eyes when I read it for the first time. And that's basically all I have to say for this one. Let's move on to the final hours with the man game, but not really. It begins with David looking for another place to live in, when suddenly he sees man on, like, the sidewalk, I guess. David, absolutely horrified, screams in terror. Man tells David to get in the van, but David just keeps screaming and he gets really pissed off at this. David gets in the van, and after 30 minutes of driving, he finds himself inside Entity's lab facility thing. David and Man bicker on a bit about Guy, whom I have a sneaking suspicion might be Man's cousin, until they are interrupted by Entity, who greets the both of them. Man just orders Entity to kill David, which he does so, but not before lampshading how long this intro is. You know, if Man really wanted David to die, why didn't he just kill him when they saw each other? Why didn't Man just run over David? Is he stupid? This game reuses the phase system from the previous entry, but now you've got 4 phases instead of 3. It still suffers from the same issue I had from the previous game, but thankfully, you don't have to keep track of as many mechanics this time around. Phase 1 has you in somewhere, facing off against Man and Scream, who I'm pretty sure might just be Dude, considering his class in the last game was Scream. To your right, you have a motion detector that tracks where Man's current position is, and on the bottom left you have a button that plays really loud among drip music. How lovely. There's also a key on the table that you need to click on to start the night. Was this key really necessary to add to the game? I feel like literally nothing would change if you just started it automatically instead of having to click on the key to start it. You don't even see this key being used at all in the game. What the fuck was the point of this key? Presumably to open this cell, but if it was locked, then how could Man be able to open it from the outside? Why would you even put the key to unlock the cell inside the cell itself? What is the purpose of this fucking key for? Man starts in this area and makes his way into your room. You can use the flash button to send him back, but you can only do so once he's right in front of your cell door. Scream screams after some amount of time, and you have to use the Among Drip button to fend him off. After surviving for a hopping 1 minute, you're brought to phase 1.5, which features the most earth-shattering and very necessary gameplay of all time. Pressing the W key thrice. Eventually, you run into Man, who banishes you into the void, where you find a teleporter and you need to press random numbers on it to survive. After pressing 30 numbers, you get teleported back to the facility, where you now have a multicolored flashlight which you can press or D to switch the colors to red and yellow respectively. You fight off against these mutation guys. They don't actually have any names, they're just called Mutation 1 and 2. You can fend off Mutation 1 using the red light, and Mutation 2 using the yellow light. I didn't even see this until I saw someone point it out, but this guy's face is really similar to Corrupted's face from the 3rd game. I don't believe this guy is corrupted though, I think it's just a neat little callback. After a minute, David escapes the mutation room, only to find Entity on the other side, and you're brought to the final phase of this night, which has you throwing hands with Entity. This fight plays basically almost the same as the Dude fight in the last game. You press the dodge button and the knife button, and you dodge the do not click buttons and the lasers, but unlike Dude, he can summon circles now, and there's also an instant death button, which is so fucked up but also really funny. After stabbing him 5 times, you get a cutscene which shows Entity's dead body, and then cuts to Mutation 1 aka the end, talking about how you can't escape him and he always comes back or some shit. He gives up like 4 minutes after this, by the way. Finale time. David ponders a bit on how to escape the place when he suddenly gets slapped. He tries to threaten whoever did that, but gets knocked by the end, and runs away. To your right you have a camera panel with 2 vents that you can seal, and you can only seal 1 vent at a time. There's only 1 guy you have to deal with, that being the end. He can go in one of the vents, and you have to seal the vent he's in to get him off. On the bottom left, you have a battery meter that drains when you're in the cameras, and regenerates when you're not. Every 10 seconds, one of 5 random events will occur that either hides your UI, fucks up your vision, or spawns Dave for some reason. He doesn't even do anything, he's just there. Oh yeah, remember when I mentioned Entity being a reality bender once? Yeah, that guy on the poster is actually him before he, covered himself in void goo or something, and turned into Entity. After surviving for 3 minutes, the Ent gives up and tells David to grab the gun in the mutation room. It then cuts to a security system of some sort detecting a containment breach, and then out comes this hideous fella, and you're immediately forced into a battle with it. For this battle, you control David on the bottom and you have to shoot the guy on the top while simultaneously avoiding the bullets and the fucking brimstone lasers he shoots out. After shooting this guy a grand total of 20 times, you get this cutscene. I'm gonna be honest, David only lost here because of the gun he grabbed. If David just barehanded the fight, it would have been a completely different story. Now, if you're a real hashtag noticer, you can see that it says true ending on the title drop. This is because the game actually has 2 different endings you can get, the true ending and the terror ending. The true ending is obtainable through beating emergency, and the terror ending is obtainable by dying to emergency. Upon dying, you get jump scared, and you're thrown into yet another battle, fighting fucked up and eviler versions of man and guy. On the top left, you have your stamina and HP. Pressing A makes you attack, which costs 3 stamina. Holding D puts up a shield which blocks enemy attacks. This decreases your stamina by 1 for every second it's up. Holding J regenerates your stamina every 0.3 seconds, and pressing L heals you for 5 health. Why didn't David just do this when he fought emergency? Why was he holding back? After attacking them 20 times, you get this cutscene. I can't even begin to parse what this means. I try to analyze this a lot more in the second part, but for now, just keep this guy in mind, as he's going to be playing a pretty important role in the upcoming Burbs game. This whole game is really fucking easy, it is so much harder to die in the emergency fight than it is to actually beat it. The only time I could actually see someone dying in this is at the finale part. Mostly because I died to that part twice. The extras menu's got some neat stuff in it. Apparently, Phase 1.5 was just some leftovers from a previous Phase 2 that Bob scrapped. It also shows you what the melted man and guy's names are, and we'll get to that later. I'm so glad they redesigned Terror in the later games. He is so bald in this game, oh my god. Broken Man was gonna have a comeback in this game, but got scrapped, which really sucks. I would have loved to see Broken Man again. I really hope he appears in a future Hours with the Man game sometime. Did you know this game has death voice lines? I actually didn't until I replayed the game again because like I said, the game is really easy. None of them are really that important to note out other than Entity being British.
Sorry, but I will not allow you to harm any more entities.
God damn it. So this one isn't actually canon to the hours with the man games, but like it also is, I think it gets so confusing. Before we start the game, I want to point out something. If you look inside the files of the game and go into the assets sprite, there's a couple of neat audio files that seem to be warning us of someone. I recommend you turn on subtitles if you haven't already.
We are not in control.
Please forgive us if we do some complications.
It's impossible to control. We are just souls, just empty puppets. Controlled by one individual.
We tried our best to escape, but we gave up after many attempts.
All of them know that I'm the one in control. I am burning.
As to who this individual is, I have a sneaking suspicion it might be this fella right here. I'll talk about why later on. The assets also shows us the 4 main humans in the series: David, Ben, Jake, and Andrew. I'm sure you know who David is. Ben is the guy that was locked in a containment cell and turned into emergency. Jake doesn't really do anything, and Andrew is the protagonist you play as in the Burbs games. He also shows up as an enemy in this game. The warning screen on this one says that you can disable the bloodshed on the settings tab. There are 0 settings to be found in this game. Unlike the others, this one follows more of a traditional FNAF fangame formula, that being the classic sit and survive gameplay with new threats appearing each night. There's only 3 main nights however, with 4 bonus nights with drastically different gameplay sandwiched in between the 3. Night 1 places you in an office type setting. To your right, you have a monitor that can seal vents. On the bottom left, you have a mask that can ward off enemies. On the top left, you have a flash button, and the button below that is your generator panel. Pressing 1, 2, or 3 while on the generator panel brings you to the power generator, light generator, and temperature generator respectively. The power generator can sometimes get fucked up, forbidding you from seeing the vent cameras. To fix that, you just need to click the reset button. If your light generator runs out, you won't be able to flash anyone. You need to click and hold the light to regenerate it. And if your temperature gets too hot, you get jump scared by this guy, who I'll talk about later. You just need to spam click the bar thing. There's only one threat in this night, which is man. He can either go through the vents, or show up in your office. If he's in the vents, you have to seal the vent he's in. If he's in your office, you have 3 seconds to flash him before he kills you. The nights in this game only last for 3 minutes, which is great, because this night is really boring. After beating night 1, you unlock Fear the Eyes, but first, I wanna take a look at the cover for this night. If you go into the project file and remove all the visual effects, you can actually see 2 notes on the walls. The note on the left is written by Ben and says,
"This entity has been tested to be interesting. It goes to dreams and haunt them. It visits people to fear them, and sometimes he would kill them. The others has a reason, but this thing, it kills for fun."
God, it's so funny seeing the way Ben talks about the netophobia here, and how he actually acts in balagolaba, R. And the one on the right is written by Jake, and reads,
"Currently testing if I can take control of anything if I just put these strange strings on them. It's working."
So it appears in this universe, David, Ben, Jake, and Andrew, instead of being jobless bums, all seem to be researchers, researching void entities, or some other bullshit. This one plays a bit similarly to ours with the Man 4, having you go through 30 rooms while avoiding the room with the netophobia, or Thania for short, in it. For every room you enter, a thingamajig blocks your path, and you have to type 3 random letters to pass through it. Do this for 30 rooms straight, and you win. That's literally it. The next one's pretty cool. The Abyss has you back in the void, and for the first time in hours with the man history, you have an actual camera panel now. Absolutely incredible. The threats for this one are Overwrited and Insides, and the mechanics are very similar to ours with the Man 3. If you're picking up a pattern on what the bonus knights are looting, then give yourself a pat on the back and discard it immediately, because the next 2 bonus knights have nothing to do with the previous hours with the man games. On the office, you have a gas button, and on the cameras, you have a glitch button. If Overwrite shows up, gas his ass, and if you hear footsteps, then you need to find insides on the cameras and glitch him. There's also a sanity meter that drains slowly and you have to press space to take your pills, but be very careful as you only have 8 pills in store and running out of pills would be a really big problem. If the sanity meter didn't drain so slowly that you only have to take 2 pills for the entire night. After 3 minutes pass, you whip out a flashlight and have to survive a Candy's 3-ass minigame with men, and this is where most unprepared players will die for the first time, because this guy's kill timer is pretty tight that you only have about 2.5 seconds of leeway between winning the night and getting fucked up. Trust me, I did the math. After that, we're back in the office again with night 2. This night introduces Guy. He shows up in your office and you need to use the mask to repel him. He also has a 10% chance to hit a Golden Freddy every cam flip, and you get to pull your cams back up to make him fuck off. Yeah, that's basically it for this one, I guess. I don't really have anything else to say about this night. I have a funny clip from it. Is that anything? Once that's done, you unlock the arcade, which is just a fucking shoot 'em up. You can move with the arrow keys and you can press space to shoot. You can also spam Z to spew a huge ball of shit at the enemies. Speaking of, all the enemy designs are based off of characters we've met in the past. Go is just your average goon. He doesn't do anything special. Cross and Hover are fast as fuck but have pretty low health to compensate, and Ducks moves slowly but has a large amount of health. I'd tell you what their health is, but I can't read scratch code for shit. After some amount of seconds, you get a fucking boss intro, and then this guy shows up and starts sending skull and denture PNGs it found on purepng.com at you. After hitting it like 200 times, you win. I love how abruptly it just ends. No grandiose explosion or anything, just, hey, you hit this guy enough times. Great job, buddy pal, you win. Next up is Puppet Watch. This one doesn't even have a description on its page, so you're completely left in the dark when you play this for the first time. This one has you playing Simon Says, while Andrew just sort of sits there, ominously. There's only one threat to deal with, which is Gold. He just kinda manifests a bit every 8 seconds, and you get a look behind you once in a while to make him leave. But if you keep staring at Gold for 20 seconds, Andrew just up and kills you, and if you stall the night out for 3 minutes, Thania kills you for taking too long. Funny thing about this part is that there's no fail state that activates when you press a wrong button, so if you forgot the notes, you can just brute force it by just pressing all the buttons until you get it right. After pressing enough buttons, you then have to play a game of red light, green light, sort of like that one show. And after getting to the finish line, you win the game. GG's. I like how the name Puppet Watch has a sort of double meaning to it. While doing the minigames, you're watching Andrew, who is essentially a puppet being controlled by a higher being, while Gold, appearance-wise, is a puppet, and to fend him off, you need to watch him like he's some sort of puppet watch. And now, we're at the final night of the game, Night 3. This night adds one final threat to really shake things up. John Dredd himself, thanatophobia. He hides in a box and you click on him to reset his progress. That is literally all he does. To compensate for barely any yappage on this night, I'm just gonna talk about why I think Thania might be the one controlling everyone. To start off, all of the characters in the game have these metal balls on their joints and shit, which highly resembles that of a string puppet, and the only character that doesn't have them is Thania. And also Gold, but like, come on. Jake's research note back in the Abyss talks about using strings to control entities, so maybe Thania somehow managed to snag all the strings and control everyone there. And lastly, on the cover art for the balagolaba OST, Thania can be seen holding marionette controllers. If that isn't the smoking gun that tells you Thania is the culprit here, then I don't know what is. But that only changes the question from a who to a why. And to be frank, I have no clue why Thania would even do this. After that, you unlock the ending cutscene. Not really, it's just words. This game never got released, by the way. I have no idea what happened to it. I really wish Fear the Eyes had some sort of, like, midnight twist somewhere. What if you make the Nanophobia, like, really wide and have him occupy 2 doors? That would be pretty cool. If you had a tiny clone of Thania, would you torture it? Much to think about. The extras menu has this reskin of Thania called Pyrophobia. At first I thought he was a completely different character, but it clarifies that Pyron and Thania are the same person, which can only mean one thing. It also says that every character in this game is assigned a symbol that can only be accessed by getting jump scared by them. Man and Guy have the symbol of Twitter, Overwrited and Insides have the symbol of Abysmal, Thania and Pyron have the symbol of Fear, and lastly, Gold and Andrew have the symbol of Conscious. Since we know Andrew was a human before he got turned into this guy, could this mean that Gold was also a human as well? Their jump scares also have a split second half of Thania's face before they turn into these weird black and white looking versions of themselves. I think what's happening here is that Gold and Andrew are still somehow sentient, and they don't actually wanna hurt you, but Thania just possesses them to finish the job or something. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. It also talks about a hidden symbol that's not in any of the jump scares. If you edit the sprite to reveal it, it just says, your mother, but I have reason to believe this is not just a setup for a yo mama joke. In Bob's Scratch profile, there is a studio she curates called Hours, and in it lies a single game, The Dread. I believe that there is going to be a sequel to The Dread that's going to have us try to find the symbol. Or maybe it means nothing, maybe it's just talking about Last Act of Man, I have no idea. Speaking of, and here we are, at the final hours with the man game, for real this time. This one's got an act select screen, with 3 acts to choose from. Now, Act 2 and 3 might look like they're locked, but they're actually not. You can click on them and it'll take you to their respective acts just fine. I think Bob just forgot to make them inaccessible. We begin with our protagonist waking up inside a cave-looking area, in front of a note that reads,
"Hey randomly chosen one, you need to help me, aka a spooky ghost along with 3 other spooky ghosts capture a spooky monster. This is not a joke, I am serious. If you don't help you will probably die by the things to the left of you. If you want to help and survive, go to the room behind and I will come and tell you what to do."
Then we're brought to the gameplay. On the top left, you've got 3 lives. Getting jump scared by something will make you lose a life. To your right, you have a square boy with a spooky ghost telling you how to survive, but his explanations suck. Mine are way better, trust me. Smileys will start spawning on the monitor and you gotta click on them. Frownies will also pop up, but don't click on them, as that will trigger a very scary jump scare if you hear the sound. That means this fella's about to attack you. You can fend him off using the void spray button to your left. What the fuck is a void spray? Be sure not to flip your monitor too much, as that triggers the hangman. That's right, man is back, and they fucking limped his ass for whatever reason. The music that plays in this part might actually be the only Bob song I like. It's so irritating, I hate it so much. After 2 minutes, we get a gameplay switch up. All the threats in this part can be dealt with by simply clicking on them. There's 2 shelter guys from both sides trying to get to the center, jump scaring you if they do. The malware guys will bounce around the screen. If you get 5 windows bouncing all together, you get jump scared. And Hangman just hangs around, blocking your clicks. After a minute and 15 seconds, you get a cutscene. Act 2 begins with a piece of dialogue. We're introduced to these guys, Crisis Soul and Emergency Soul. You may also know them as David and Ben. We're also shown who the protagonist of this game is, Simon. He really likes ducks, and geese, and possibly any other aquatic bird. He also wears gloves, no one really knows why. He asks Ben if he's a dog, which derails the whole conversation by a good 10 enters. After that, we're tasked with going to the Searcher's hideout, but to do that we need to go through the Shrieker's maze, and Ben gives us the option of choosing one of two tools, the soundproof helmet or the Swifter. The helmet allows the Shrieker to hear you less somehow, at the cost of making the Shrieker harder to hear, while the Swifter makes you move faster, but gets you hurt more easily. Oh yeah, this guy's blind by the way, I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Afterwards, we're brought to the gameplay. This one plays pretty similar to the fourth game, or Fear the Eyes in the Dread. For every new room you enter, a random Shrieker sound will play from the 3 possible entrances, and you get to go to wherever the Shrieker isn't growling at. If you mess up somehow, the Shrieker will get louder, and if you fuck up 3 times in a row, you get jump scared. If you're wearing the helmet however, the total fuck up count to die from is up to 4. If you take too long, this pulsating effect starts happening and you die. After progressing through 25 rooms, you get to the next part of the act. This one plays out a lot like the fighting minigames in the 5th and 6th game, but instead of throwing hands with someone, you're running away from them, and you get to survive until the song ends. If David was the protagonist for this one, he definitely would have been throwing hands here, that's for sure. Click the click buttons, and don't hover over the giant warning sign that says do not hover. Sometimes bots can attack and you need to type bots to ward him off. And after 39 seconds, we're introduced to another threat. Every 5 to 10 seconds, this guy's eyes will open, and you have to press space to close them. You can also just spam the shit out of space to completely negate him. An interesting thing to note about this part is that all the enemies you go up against, bots, Mutilate Bot and Thousand Legs, are all based on the creations the dude made in the 4th game, which I think is a pretty neat callback. Once the song's finished playing, we get the ending cutscene for this act. But before getting to Act 3, we must first answer 3 questions that influence the first part of the act by a small amount. The first question asks you which of the 3 reality benders you like more. Choosing one will disable them for the rest of the night. The second question asks if you've ever felt like abandoning a close friend. Choosing one will determine what method of attack this guy does. I'll talk more about him later. And the last question asks if you would worship Dave from now until eternity. Picking no will flash this very ominous message, and pressing the flag icon after that gives you a jump scare. Spooky. After we finish answering, we're then thrusted into the gameplay. You got a square boy with 4 cameras on it, a camera that keeps track of this fella with a burn button on it, and a system panel which shows your battery, pipeline state, and this malware guy. Every once in a while the pipeline will break, and you have to go to your monitor and press the fix pipeline button next to it. There's also a battery meter that you can recharge by holding space. You've got a whopping 9 different characters to go up against in this one. I'll quickly rapid fire through them as to not waste any of your time. Malware will slowly take shape in the system panel and you gotta click him a few times. Shelter will play an audio cue and then move into one of 4 cameras in your monitor, find him and stare at him. Hangman will sometimes appear after flipping your camera down, flip it back up to fend him off. The Shrieker will appear in the middle of the office, don't flip your camera while he's there and wait for him to disappear. If you see the searcher in Victim 7's room, burn that shit to the ground. Best friend has 2 methods of attacking. If you said yes to the abandonment question, you will hear a weird laughing noise. Quickly pull your monitor down to repel him. If you said no to the abandonment question, he will attack in the office and you need to click him or something. This guy's just really buggy. If you say no to this question, guy plays a sound cue when he appears. Pull your cameras down and type guy to get rid of him. Dave will randomly appear in place of Victim 7. Just don't stare at him for long enough or he'll kill you. Hollow will kill you if you stay in the monitor for too long. And lastly, Dude doesn't actually appear in this night. Yeah, he kinda just didn't care to show up. Now this might come as a shock to some of you, but I never actually beat this part without cheating the night timer until I went back to get some footage, which is honestly a skill issue on my part. This one isn't even that difficult. All I had to do was choose man, say yes, and stay on the office until one of the 3 cam threads appear, and that's basically it. Anyways, after surviving for 4 minutes, we proceed to the second part of the act. We meet up with Jake and Andrew, who tells us how to survive this part. I love how David and Andrew, the 2 confirmed protagonists of the series, are just completely useless in this game. I just find that really funny. To the left, you have a door. To the right, you have a window. Holding space near an entrance closes it, and holding left click turns your flashlight on. There's only one thread in this night, which is everybody's favorite hours with the main character, Terror. I hate this guy. If you hear footsteps, that means Terror is in one of the 2 entrances. Quickly find where he is and close it to make him leave. If Terror starts broadcasting his show, click it to turn it off, and if you see him in the ceiling, you need to start flashing the shit out of him until he leaves. After surviving for 2 minutes, we get our final cutscene. But first, we have to go through one final showdown with Search. And after all of that, we get a very lovely credits scene, with Man and Dude returning to their heist, and fixing up all their wrongdoings, or something like that. And while the credits are rolling, I just wanna share a gripe I have with the plot, which is, how the hell did the 4 main humans go from these fucked up looking fellas, into these slightly not so fucked up looking fellas? They kinda just never acknowledged the point in any of the later games. Anyways, we see Burp paying Dude $17 million to build the robots for his restaurant. Where the hell did he get all that money from? And lastly, we see Man calling Dude like 5 times begging to hang out again, which makes me wonder what happened that made Dude stop hanging out with them. And while that's rolling, I found another gripe I have. What was the deal with Searcher? Like, he gets built up in Act 1 and 2, and when he finally shows up to throw hands, he gets one tapped by a wrench. What's even weirder is that the extras menu text says that he is more than just something in this game, which tells me that he is not gonna be just a one-off enemy in this entry. I really don't know what his deal is here. After the credits, we get another teaser for another game that may or may not be in the works.
This is gonna be such a comical chaos.
Do you think this is still happening? I have no idea. The extras menu shows us some new renders of the main three men, Simon, and the designs of the four humans Carnage form, whatever that means. It's also got an endless version of the chase sequence from Act 2, with 4 new threats to boot. I'm not telling you who they are though, go play the game for yourself, buddy pal. Lastly, we've got a custom Knife of the Gateway section from Act 3, which has a very, very interesting cutscene upon beating the max mode for it. And just like every single terror-related thing I've talked about so far, I haven't the faintest clue what the fuck this means. I try to analyze this a lot more in the next section, which is, right now actually what the fuck is what I would have said if I didn't decide to split this up in 2 parts. I'm afraid that's all the time I've got for today. I really wasn't expecting this video to take so long, but that's par for the course on any project I make. Who knew making second monitor slop content could be this enthralling? I'm sure you have a lot of questions on your mind right now. Like the fact that I just glossed over who these 2 fuckers are. But rest assured, all of them will be explained in the next part. Most of them. This part was mostly just a warm-up for part 2, as that is where the real shit happens. In that part, I'm gonna talk about Terror and what his role seems to be in this series, all the miscellaneous hours with the man games, the balagolaba and Burbs games, all that we currently know about the new Burbs remake, and the full hours with the man timeline. Basically everything you need to know about hours with the man lore, condensed into one video. So stay tuned for that in probably early 2026, but if you don't wanna wait 3 months for the follow-up video, there's a bunch of links in the description for you to do your own theorizing. Fun fact, this video was originally gonna be uploaded on Bob Day, but I sadly wasn't able to make it in time. I blame Silksong for this. And lastly, I wanna give a huge thanks to the comic Gold Leaf for telling me to stop daydreaming and to start actually making this video for real. He didn't actually say that, but it was close enough, I think.
You could make a video essay like Shades. Shades would endorse you, and after he endorses you, 5,000 subs. I do have an idea for a video essay. Actually, that would be so crazy. Okay. I would love to see that in full effect. If that ever happens, I am day 1. No, sorry, frame 1. I am frame 1 watching. This is the game I want to make an essay about.
Haha, the man is here. Flash. My name is Brokeman. I'm gonna kill you. Boo.
What is this? Hold on. Wait, hold on. I gotta see this. Flash shock.
Haha, the man is here. Flash.
Dude, this
My
is.
name is Brockman. Slash.
Oh, they're overlapping. The lore gets really deep.
Haha, the man is here. Slash. My name is Brock.
Really sucks that this stuff is like semi-niche when it's probably really high in quality compared to a lot of things you'd find on the market now. Like it's really cool actually. Hold on. Okay, what's happening? Okay. What? Dude, you skipped like 40 minutes. I don't know what's happening anymore. You lost me. Keep the circle in the. Oh, it's pressure. Oh, my bad. There's pressure. Hold on. What is happening? Is this like Night Tree? Okay. Undertale? Do you just like share this anytime you want people to introduce? You want to introduce people to this game? You just cut to the midsection of this part? Because I'm already like a lot. Yeah, basically, I'm very curious already. I've only seen like one singular piece of fan art of the entire HWTM series. I need more. That's crazy. Dude, that projects are legitimately so underrated. You gotta make this video essay. It will solve cancer.
And I think that's all I wanted to say here. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you soon. All of your theories are wrong. Goodbye.